The silence before contact. The dark side of planet Thalren floated quietly in space, its twin moons shining like cold silver eyes for centuries. The Thalren Dominion had ruled this sector. Their fleet stretched across a dozen worlds. No one challenged them, no one dared until that night. Inside the grand observation hall of the Dominion flagship Vorex Prime, Admiral Sarath stood before the great star-glass window. His eyes followed a single blinking light on the tactical screen. A tiny signal, weak but steady, moving through the void. "It's human," whispered Commander Vale, his voice shaking. "A single vessel, unidentified class, entering our outer perimeter." Sarath narrowed his eyes. Humans were a primitive species, only recently known to the wider galaxy. The Dominion had crushed hundreds of rebellious worlds before. This should be no different. "Send them a warning," he said calmly. "Let them know whose territory they've entered." A transmission was sent. No response. The human ship just kept coming. Slowly, silently. The room grew tense. Engineers whispered, officers frowned. Even the hum of the engine seemed quieter. "Maybe it's damaged," one officer suggested. "Maybe they're lost." But something about that calm, steady approach made everyone uneasy. The ship's energy readings were low, too low, almost as if it wasn't powered at all. Yet it moved with impossible precision. Sarath frowned. "Bring me a visual." The hologram flickered to life, revealing a dark vessel, its surface blacker than the void. No visible engines, no markings. It absorbed the starlight instead of reflecting it. Like a shadow given form. That's no transport ship," Vale murmured. "It looks ancient." "Ancient?" Sarath echoed, his voice growing cold. "Or advanced." Meanwhile, far across the distance inside that very ship, Captain Alara Voss sat in silence. The human vessel Eidolon was unlike any other. A prototype born from forgotten blueprints of the old Earth defense program, built to test humanity's newest quantum drive. But something went wrong. They had entered a rift, and now they were here, in Dominion space, surrounded by enemies who once ignored humanity completely. Ilara stared at the holographic stars, her voice calm. "Status report. Engines nominal, cloak stable. Weapons on standby," said Lieutenant Graves. "But Admiral, we're being hailed." "Multiple times." Ilara smiled faintly. "Let them talk." "We listen." Her crew exchanged uneasy glances. They were alone. One ship against an empire. The logical choice was to turn back, but Alara was not here by accident. The Dominion had been experimenting with human prisoners years ago, and Earth hadn't forgotten. Back on Vorex Prime, the signal officer gasped. "Admiral, they've pinged our sensors." Sarath's eyes widened. "They can see us?" Before anyone could react, every Dominion ship in orbit flickered on the tactical display. Their positions exposed, their energy signatures mirrored back at them. It was impossible. No known tech could scan through Thalren's stealth systems. A nervous murmur filled the hall. "Sir, they just scanned our fleet without a pulse." "Impossible," Sarath hissed. But deep down fear crept in. "Prepare the rail batteries," he ordered. "I want that ship vaporized." The Vorex Prime charged its cannons. The massive energy coils lit up blue, targeting the silent intruder. But just before firing, every Dominion screen went black. The power grid flickered, the lights died. Then a voice came through the comm. Soft, calm, unmistakably human. "We remember Thalren." For a moment, no one breathed. Alara's message echoed through every ship, every channel, every Dominion world within range. "You took our people. You called us weak. You will return them now." The words hit harder than any weapon. The Dominion command center erupted into chaos. Officers scrambled, engineers shouted, yet all systems remained unresponsive. The human ship hadn't fired a single shot, and still the entire fleet was blind. Admiral Sarath clenched his fists. How are they doing this?" On board the Eidolon, Alara turned to her crew. "Mark this moment," she said. "The day the Dominion learns that humans do not vanish quietly." Outside, the stars shimmered as the Eidolon slowly turned, its black hull glowing with faint crimson lines. The ship's presence felt alive, as if it were breathing, watching, waiting for the first time in generations. The Dominion's fleet held position, motionless, uncertain, and on the command deck of Vorex Prime, Admiral Sarath whispered, "One ship, and they made us afraid." Shadows of fear. The great halls of the Thalren Dominion pulsed with unease. Reports flooded in from the border systems. Sensors scrambled, communication arrays glitched, and one name echoed through every frequency: human vessel Eidolon. Admiral Sarath hadn't slept since the first encounter. The image of that black ship haunted him. The way it had disabled an entire fleet without firing a single shot. It went against everything he understood about warfare. On the outer rim station, Virus 9, technicians huddled around cracked monitors, trying to trace the human signal. "Sir?" "The ship vanished again," one of them whispered. It's like it was never there, vanished, yet still felt. Every Dominion captain who had seen it described the same thing. A soundless pulse that shook the hull, a flicker in the stars, and then silence. A silence that carried weight. Meanwhile, on the Eidolon, Captain Alara Voss stood before her crew. Her reflection shimmered in the glass of the command screen. "We've confirmed their listening posts," she said softly. "They're watching us now." Lieutenant Graves frowned. "We should hit them first, ma'am, before they gather strength." Alara shook her head. "Not yet. Fear is more powerful than fire. Let them see what they've awakened." The crew obeyed without question. Every man and woman aboard had lost someone, a friend, a sibling, a lover, to Dominion experiments. The Eidolon was not built for war. It was built for remembrance. But humanity had learned long ago that remembrance could burn brighter than vengeance. Back in Dominion Command, Sarath gathered his council. "I want every archive on human technology," he barked. "Everything from first contact to their latest transmissions." The analysts hesitated. "Sir, much of that data was restricted after the Earth incidents." "Unseal it," Sarath snapped. "If that ship is truly human, then they've evolved beyond anything we imagined." They complied, pulling up old records, grainy images of primitive ships, colonists in metal suits, and a transmission from decades ago. A human ambassador smiling, saying words now long forgotten. "We come in peace. But do not mistake peace for weakness." Sarath stared at that line for a long time. His throat felt dry. "They warned us," he whispered moments later. Alarms blared across the station. "Incoming signal," shouted a comm officer. "It's them." The hologram screen flickered, revealing the Eidolon motionless, distant, yet its shadow stretched across every sensor. Then a voice filled the room. It was female, calm, echoing across frequencies. "This is Captain Alara Voss of the United Terran vessel Eidolon. You have 10 hours to release all human captives and cease all experiments on our kind." The Dominion chamber erupted in disbelief. "They dare threaten us?" shouted one general. "One ship against 1,000. But Sarath didn't shout, he simply stared at the image. The human ship floated against the void, silent, patient, and behind that silence, he sensed something vast, something ancient. "She's not bluffing," he muttered. "This is not a threat, it's a promise." Hours passed, and the Dominion fleet prepared for battle. Warships moved into formation, dreadnoughts lined up across the sector. Their weapons hummed with power, yet deep inside, every soldier felt the same quiet dread. On the Eidolon, the human crew watched their monitors. "They're charging weapons," Graves said. 30 destroyers locked on. Alara closed her eyes. "Activate the mirror field," the ship pulsed. A faint shimmer rippling outward like a stone dropped into water. Within seconds, the Dominion radar filled with hundreds of ghost images, each identical to the Eidolon. "Sir, they've multiplied," screamed the Dominion tech officer. "We're seeing 300 ships, no, 400. Fire!" Sarath commanded. Energy beams tore through space. Detonations lit the void, but when the smoke cleared, the Eidolon still floated untouched. The false readings vanished. Replaced by silence once again, Alara whispered. "Message received." The Dominion flagship systems flickered again. Internal comms filled with static, engines powered down. It was as if something, or someone, had reached inside their network and simply turned off the lights. Sarath slammed his fist on the console. "Find her! Find that ship!" But even as he shouted, another transmission came through. A simple video feed. Old footage from Earth, showing a quiet blue planet. Oceans glittering beneath white clouds. "This is humanity," the voice said. "And we are awake now." Every officer froze, staring at the image. The planet looked small, fragile, harmless. Yet it carried an unspoken weight, a memory of resilience, a warning of what they had forgotten. On board the Eidolon, Alara's crew watched as Dominion signals flickered in and out. "They're scared," Graves said quietly. "They don't know what's coming." Alara nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. Good, they shouldn't. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, and somewhere deep in that cold silence, the galaxy began to tremble. The trap in the stars, the Dominion fleet drifted in silent formation around the crimson planet Drathis 4. 1,000 ships glimmered like shards of glass beneath the twin suns, every cannon aimed at the same empty stretch of sky, where the human vessel Eidolon had last been seen. Admiral Sarath stood at the bridge of Vorex Prime, his jaw tense. "We will end this ghost once and for all," he said. The technicians nodded, but their hands shook. The fear from the first encounter still lingered like smoke, to draw the human out. The Dominion had broadcast a fake distress signal from a nearby mining colony, a clever trap designed to lure in the intruder. "They'll come to rescue their people," Sarath muttered. "And when they do, we strike." Hours passed. The stars remained still, the trap seemed useless, until the sensors caught a faint energy ripple. "Contact bearing 249, shouted the operator. Sarath's pulse quickened. On the hologram the void shimmered, and then, there it was, the Eidolon, emerging like a shadow breaking through water. "She came," whispered Viel almost in disbelief. "Lock all weapons," Sarath ordered. "This time." No warnings, but before they could fire, the human ship vanished again, disappearing from every scanner. The Dominion fleet froze. "Where did it go?" cried the sensor chief. "It just blinked out." Then, one by one, Dominion ships began to lose power. Lights flickered, engines died, screens turned to static. Panic spread through the comm channels. "Sir, something's in our systems. It's rewriting command codes." Sarath's eyes widened. "It's hacking us through the signal we sent." Meanwhile, aboard the Eidolon, Captain Alara Voss stood calmly, watching Dominion ships drift helplessly. "They used a distress call to bait us," she said. "Now we'll return the message." Lieutenant Graves grinned. "All networks open, Captain," Alara spoke softly, her voice transmitting across every Dominion vessel. "You seek to capture what you do not understand. You think in numbers." "We think in purpose," her words echoed through the comms, followed by silence. Then, the Eidolon released a pulse of light, invisible to the eye, but powerful enough to disable every targeting system within 10,000 kilometers. Inside Vorex Prime, the lights burst back on. Every console displayed the same symbol, a human hand, open, glowing. "What is that?" gasped Vale. Sarath stared at it, his voice low. A warning. But even as he spoke, another event unfolded outside. Dominion drones turned against their own fleet, firing uncontrolled bursts. Ships collided. Explosions rippled through the formation, chaos consuming their perfect order. On the Eidolon, Graves reported, multiple collisions detected. Admiral's flagship still operational. Ilara watched quietly. "Leave them one path, make them think they're chasing us." Moments later, Vorex Prime regained partial control. "The human is retreating," Vale said. "She's heading toward the nebula. Follow them." Sarath barked. "All remaining ships, pursue." The Dominion fleet surged forward, engines roaring. But the nebula ahead was a graveyard of energy storms and magnetic distortion. Sensors failed instantly. Communication broke apart. Inside the swirling light of the nebula, the Eidolon moved like a phantom. Its hull glowed faint red, energy rippling along invisible shields. "This place will blind their sensors completely," Graves said. "That's the idea," Alara replied. "Prepare the prism array." The Eidolon rotated slowly, releasing hundreds of small reflective drones. Each one mirrored light and radiation, forming false echoes within minutes. The nebula was filled with hundreds of illusions, all copies of the Eidolon, each moving differently. The Dominion ships entered the storm, firing blindly. Each explosion only deepened their confusion. Sarath shouted over the chaos, "We can't tell which one's real." Then the voice of Alara returned once more. "This is not war, Admiral, it's memory. Humanity remembers every world you burned, every child you took, and every lie you told." The nebula pulsed. Energy storms rippled outward, and for the briefest moment, the Eidolon appeared in full, wings extended, its hull covered with glowing sigils like living light. Sarath stared at it, struck silent. "What are they?" he whispered. The answer came in a whisper that chilled every mind tuned to the channel. "We are the children of Earth, and we have come home." A single beam of light flashed, not destructive but blinding. When it faded, the human ship was gone. The Dominion fleet drifted powerless. Lost inside the storm, for the first time in his career, Admiral Sarath bowed his head. One ship, And they command the stars, he murmured. Back aboard the Eidolon, Alara stood before the viewport, the nebula glowing around her like fire and smoke. They'll call for reinforcements now, she said. Good, let them come. She turned to her crew, eyes fierce but calm, because this is only the beginning. The rise of the forgotten, the Dominion High Council gathered in a storm of panic. The air inside the crystal chamber vibrated with whispers and static. Holograms flickered and warlords argued across a dozen languages. At the center stood Admiral Sarath, his armor scorched, eyes hollow. You saw what they did, he said coldly. One ship crippled a fleet of thousands. An illusion, one counselor hissed. No species can hold such power. Sarath slammed his fist against the table. Illusions don't rewrite command systems. They don't shut down engines across 5 sectors. His voice echoed. We are not facing technology. We are facing intent. Silence fell. The word intent carried a weight none could deny. Far away in the drifting calm of deep space, the Eidolon floated beyond the nebula, repairs in progress. The hull glowed faintly from energy residue like veins of living metal. Inside, Captain Alara Voss stood before a projection of Earth, a tiny blue sphere surrounded by stars. They still think we're few, she said. They don't understand. Humanity is no longer one planet, Lieutenant Graves nodded. Signals from the colonies are coming through. Ma'am, they're listening. One by one, faint holograms appeared around them, human captains, soldiers, scientists, faces from every corner of the scattered colonies. Some wore uniforms, others looked like miners or traders, but their eyes shared the same fire. A woman from Titan spoke first. We've hidden long enough. They took our people, our children. Now it's time they remember who we are. Alara's lips curved slightly. Then the galaxy will remember. Across the Dominion frontier, strange events began to unfold. Human signals appeared where no ships were supposed to exist. Cargo vessels turned into war frigates overnight. Research outposts became command hubs. Dominion patrols vanished. Stations went dark. In less than a week, reports came flooding in. Human activity detected in 13 systems. Admiral Sarath stared at the growing map. Each red dot represented chaos. How can they spread so fast? He whispered. We destroyed their colonies centuries ago. Maybe, said Vael softly. But they rebuilt. They learned from us, and somewhere deep inside him, Sarath felt the cold truth. Humanity had not vanished. They had evolved in silence, waiting for the moment to rise. Meanwhile, inside the Eidolon, Alara's crew monitored hundreds of encrypted transmissions. All colonies are responding, Graves said. Operation Dawnfire is ready. Alara turned slowly, the reflection of starlight in her eyes. Then begin. The ship's core thrummed, its light deepening to crimson. A pulse shot across subspace, invisible but felt across the entire Dominion frontier. On distant worlds, buried human bases activated for the first time in decades. Dormant fleets rose from icy caves and forgotten deserts. One by one, they came online. In the Dominion Senate, chaos erupted again. What is happening? Shouted the Chancellor. Who authorized this interference? Sarath whispered the truth no one wanted to hear. We did, long ago. When we took them from their home, as the galaxy trembled, the humans began to broadcast a single message across all known channels, translated into every tongue, carried by light. To those who thought Earth was gone and we were only silent. To those who ruled with cruelty, we were only patient. The transmission played over every Dominion world. Screens across markets, temples, and shipyards flickered to reveal Earth itself. Blue and bright, rotating slowly, a silent witness of all on the Eidolon, the crew stood in reverent silence. They're hearing us, Graves said. Even the Dominion civilians. That's the point, Alara replied quietly. The Empire must fall from within. Fear will make their soldiers question, and memory will make them human again. In orbit above the Dominion capital, fleets gathered, entire armadas forming to destroy the intruder species once and for all. Sarath stood on the bridge of Vorex Prime, staring at the endless lines of ships. They will come, he said, and they will fight, but this time, Admiral, we face something beyond war. As if answering his words, the stars began to shift. Thousands of microsignatures appeared on the radar. Small ships, agile, fast, human contact, shouted an officer. Multiple signals incoming, hundreds. Thousands. Sarath gripped the console, his throat dry. They were never one ship, he said softly. That vessel was only the spark, and far in the distance, the Eidolon emerged once more, surrounded by a glowing halo of light. Its new fleet behind it, hundreds of human ships rising from forgotten worlds. Ilara's voice filled the comms. Calm but thunderous. We gave you mercy once. Now we bring memory. Every Dominion soldier who heard it felt something strange, not fear, but guilt, a feeling their kind had forgotten. The galaxy had turned its eyes to Earth, and this time Earth was watching back. The battle for the core. The Dominion core system burned brighter than any star, a fortress of light surrounded by endless fleets. Thousands of ships formed shimmering walls across the void, cannons charged, drones humming like mechanical insects. At the center floated the massive citadel Vorax Prime, its armor reforged, its guns burning with energy. Admiral Sarath stood on the command deck, his face carved from stone. He had gathered everything the Dominion had, every warship, every fighter, every ounce of pride. This time, the humans will not escape, he said, his voice echoing through the comms. This time, the galaxy will remember who rules it, but somewhere beyond the core's perimeter. In the cold silence between stars, the Eidolon waited, cloaked, silent, its dark hull absorbing the light. Captain Ilara Voss stood before the central console. Her reflection glowed faintly in the red light of the ship's heart. They've gathered everything they have, she said. They think this is where we break. Lieutenant Graves gave a small smile. Then let's teach them what breaking really means. The human fleet, once hidden, now stood ready. 1,000 ships assembled from the ashes of forgotten worlds. No two were the same. Some were rebuilt freighters, others old war relics, but together they formed something new, something alive. Ilara raised her hand. Activate the memory field. A ripple of light spread across space, invisible to eyes but felt by every living mind. It carried something strange and a whisper, a vision. Inside Dominion ships, soldiers froze mid-command. Their screens flickered, not with static but with images and faces, children, ruined cities. The history of the human race played before them. Every atrocity, every cry, every fire they had caused. What is this? Gasped a pilot, clutching his head. These aren't our archives. Sarath watched in disbelief as his entire fleet faltered. They're projecting memories, he whispered. They're making us feel what they felt. The Dominion soldiers who once saw humans as insects now felt their pain, hunger, loss, and the long silence of exile. Some dropped their weapons, others screamed in confusion. This is not a weapon, Ilara said softly from her bridge. It's the truth. The Dominion tried to fight back, firing blind into the void. But the Eidolon moved like smoke, its every motion unpredictable. Its systems ran on something beyond normal power, a hybrid of quantum AI and human emotion itself. Ma'am, they're collapsing, Graves reported. Half the fleet is turning on itself. Ilara nodded slowly. Don't destroy them. Let them see. As the Dominion's grand armada tore itself apart, the core world of Thalren began to broadcast emergency signals. Millions of civilians saw the same vision. The crimes of their empire, the suffering of those they had enslaved. For the first time in Dominion history, their citizens demanded surrender. Sarath stood trembling. They're undoing us without a single shot, he whispered. How can one race do this? And then his comm lit up again. A voice, human, calm as ever. This is Captain Ilara Voss of the United Terran Fleet. The Dominion ruled through fear. Humanity rules through memory. You cannot erase what you now see. Sarath fell silent, his pride cracking. What do you want from us? Ilara's reply was quiet, yet it thundered through the halls of power. To be remembered as equals. Not shadows, her words echoed across space, and as the Eidolon moved closer to the core, every Dominion system went dark one by one, their weapons powered down, not because they were forced, but because their own people refused to fight. The war ended without a final blast. The galaxy held its breath on the Eidolon. Ilara watched the Dominion ships drift into silence. They'll rebuild, Graves said quietly. They always do. Ilara smiled faintly. So will we. In the distance, the planet Thalren glowed faintly, its skies clearing as the pulse faded. Humanity had not come to conquer but to awaken, and in that awakening, the galaxy trembled, not from fear but from understanding. The day the galaxy remembered. The stars above the Dominion core burned with quiet light. The war was over. Yet the silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. Wreckage drifted like ghostly shadows across space, the last fragments of an empire that had once ruled without mercy. From the bridge of the Eidolon, Captain Alara Voss looked out at the glowing remains. "No more commands, no more fear," she whispered. "Only truth." Her crew stood beside her, tired, scarred, but alive. They had not conquered. They had changed something far greater than territory. Reports came flooding in from across the galaxy. Dominion fleets surrendering without resistance, alien worlds opening their ports to human envoys, and broadcast signals carrying one message over every frequency: "Remember Earth." On the Dominion capital, Admiral Sarath walked among the ruined halls of the Senate. The once mighty council chambers stood in silence, holograms flickering with images of Earth's blue oceans. He stopped before the grand window, watching the stars. When the voice came through the comm, it was calm, human, and familiar. "Admiral Sarath," Alara said, her tone neither proud nor cruel. "You once saw us as a threat. Now you see what we are." Sarath exhaled slowly. "I see what we forgot, Captain. We thought power was control, but you showed us that power is memory." Alara smiled faintly. "Memory keeps us human, even when we're far from home." Far below, on the surface of Thalren, crowds gathered to watch the sky, where the Eidolon floated like a dark angel. Some bowed, others simply stared, realizing that the humans they had enslaved were not monsters, but mirrors. Graves approached quietly. "Ma'am, the council wants to speak with you. They want peace talks." Alara nodded. "They'll have them, but first, they must understand why we came." The ship's comm activated, broadcasting across every remaining Dominion system. Her voice reached billions, calm and steady like the heartbeat of the stars. "We are the children of Earth," she said. "We have crossed your darkness not to destroy you, but to remind you that every world, every being carries the same light inside. You feared us because you forgot your own reflection." Her words carried through space like music, and on worlds that had never seen a human before, people stopped to listen. The Dominion no longer trembled from terror. They trembled from understanding. As peace vessels began their descent, Alara turned to her crew. "Set course for home," she said. "Earth is waiting." The Eidolon moved slowly, its black hull catching the light of the rising suns behind it. The new alliance began to take shape, humans and aliens rebuilding what war had broken. Admiral Sarath watched as the human ship disappeared into the glow. "One vessel," he whispered, "and they changed everything." Centuries from that day, historians would mark it not as a victory, but as a beginning. The day the galaxy stopped fearing humanity and started remembering what it meant to be alive. As the Eidolon vanished into the horizon of stars, the final transmission echoed one last time. "This is humanity. We are not conquerors. We are the memory that endures," and with that, the stars fell silent once more, and not in fear but in peace. The legacy of light years passed since the day the Eidolon vanished into the stars. The galaxy that once trembled in fear had changed beyond recognition. Empires had fallen, alliances had risen, and the name human was no longer whispered with terror, but spoken with reverence. The Dominion worlds rebuilt their cities. Their people walked under open skies, and where banners of conquest once flew, now stood monuments, each carved with 2 words in every language known. "Remember Earth." On one quiet morning, the twin suns of Thalren rose over a new academy, built on the ruins of the old Senate. Children of many species studied together, some with scales, others with wings, and among them were humans, laughing and learning side by side. An old man stood at the balcony watching them, his once black armor now gray, his eyes softer. It was Admiral Sarath, long retired. Now a teacher of history, he often told his students, "Once I fought against them, and they taught me who I was." Far away at the edge of known space, a familiar ship drifted in silence, the Eidolon, preserved as a relic of the new age inside. Only one light still glowed, the captain's chair, untouched, waiting from the nearby colonies. Young explorers visited it every year. They came not to worship but to remember. One of them, a human girl named Lyra, stood before the control panel and whispered, "Captain Alara Voss, they still speak your name." As she touched the console, a faint hum filled the air, and the ship's ancient systems came alive for a moment, projecting a hologram. Ilara's face calm, radiant, unchanged. "Whoever you are," her voice said, "remember this. Strength is not in weapons. It's in unity, and memory is not what we hold. It's what we become. The hologram flickered and faded, leaving behind a soft blue glow that lingered like a heartbeat. Outside, Lyra looked up at the stars, where human and alien ships now traveled together in peace. "You changed everything," she whispered. "You showed us who we could be back on Earth." In the halls of the new United Galactic Council, humanity's flag hung beside countless others. The old blue and green world had become more than a home. It had become a symbol. Every year they held a ceremony called the Day of Light, a moment when every world went silent for 60 seconds. The stars dimmed, communication paused, and across galaxies, beings of every kind closed their eyes and remembered the day one ship taught them compassion. And in that silence, the voice of Captain Alara seemed to echo once more, carried through the quiet hum of the cosmos.